4 of Spotlight the Gay England podcast. We've got a very full edition focusing on primary education. I'm going to let all of the guests, because there's so many of them today, I'm going to let the guests kind of circle around and introduce themselves. They can't tell which order they are on my screen. So I'm going to start with Ernest. There you go.
Hi, I'm Ernest. I work in a primary school in North London. I've been there for 11 years now. In that time, I've been a class teacher, an achievement leader, and co-lead with Emine in terms of digital leading the computing at the school. Yeah, we're a large school, mainstream school. Yeah, that's about me.
I think you've nicely introduced the next person.
Yeah, so I'm Emine. Most of you may know me. I'm also a digital lead with Ernest. I'm a primary educator, and I've been in the same school as well as Ernest for 8 years now, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. And then next up on my screen is Ruth.
Hi, I'm Ruth. I work at St John's School in Buckinghamshire, Essex, which is part of the Epping Forest School Trust. I've been at the school 1.5 years now, and yeah, that's me.
We'll keep with Epping Forest and go to Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. So yeah, I work with Ruth in Epping Forest Schools Partnership Trust in a different school. So I've worked there for 7 years, and kind of the last 2 years, I'd say, kind of fallen into kind of being like a digital lead and kind of running PedTech with Matt and Ruth. Yeah.
Thank you. And then finally, we've got a pair together. We've got James and Cheryl.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl. I'm Director of Digital at Leo Academy Trust. We've got a group of 12 primary schools based in South West London and Surrey. Yeah, I oversee digital strategy across the map.
And I'm James Lewry. I'm a Year 6 teacher at Shirley Community Primary School, which is one of the schools in Leo Academy Trust. Have been a teacher there for about 13 years now, but part of Leo for coming up 4 years.
Thanks for the introductions, everybody. So we're going to jump straight into the questions. I'm going to pass it over to my co-host, Peter.
Yeah, so most people know me nowadays as a SEND senior teacher, but I am actually a trained primary school teacher. My degree is in primary education, so I'm really looking forward to this episode today. To start with, we've got 3 different primary trusts represented here today. Just in a quick, short, sharp 30 seconds or so, can you describe the digital personality of your school? Are you innovators? Are you steady sustainers? Are you risk takers? What is that little snapshot that you could really say, this is us in a nutshell in terms of your digital strategy? Now, annoyingly, different order to Matty, so stay on your toes here. We are going to start, though, up with Ernest again.
Okay, so I did actually introduce my school. So it's Great Park Primary School, and we're part of Connect Education Trust. And Emine, I think you can also jump in, and because we both work at the same school, same trust. I think we're probably the steady sustainers. I don't know if Emine agrees. We didn't really chat about it. But we have some innovators that obviously push boundaries and do try new things. But I think our success largely kind of depends on, the consistency of how teachers use the technology at the school. We have lots of teachers who just get on with it. They embrace it. They get on board. They love the one-to-one Chromebook model and just make sure that it's being used. Yeah. So more on sustaining what we've started. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. We'll go down to Cheryl and James then next.
Okay. I think probably we are at the innovator stage now. I think we probably did a lot of sustaining for a while, like you guys, Ernest. But I think technology is just evolving so quickly now, right? So I think that's been, I think people are now kind of looking to us for the next step, and equally we're looking for the next step in our journey as well. So we've been thinking about things like what does our physical classroom look like now? Now we've got the technology, how do we make sure that we can maybe rethink the design of the classroom itself? Do we need the interactive whiteboard at the front anymore? And actually, could we be thinking differently?
Yeah, I'll definitely sort of add another one. We're definitely includers. We're really sort of striving for excellence for all, but also not just having tech for shininess sake, but with purpose behind it and leveling that playing field so that our SEND pupils can be engaged within their learning and have that dignity within the classroom.
So that real idea of the PedTech first approach, putting the pedagogy at the heart of it. Ruth, let's swing over to you.
I would say we're very similar to kind of what Ernest was saying at the moment at the stage we're at. We're kind of sustaining what we're doing. We've implemented quite a few new tools within the trust. Our kind of PedTech journey is quite new. So we've got a few programs, a few things that we're using across the trust that we're keeping with, and there are a few of us who are trying out new things as well alongside those programs, but definitely the main focus on a few programs that we're using across the trust. I don't know if Rachel, you want to add anything as well?
Yeah, I was also going to mention as well that I'd say a big thing for our trust is integration. So we all kind of work as a team, even though we don't get to see each other so often. If someone's trialing one specific software, they're so open about how that's going. Instead of, I'd say right at the start, if you're trying something new, you kind of want to keep it to yourself. But everything's very open, and we are really a team when it comes to trialing all of our new products and new ideas for PedTech. So yeah, I agree with you, Ruth.
I mean, that is amazing. Like, I train 3 days a week for a group, and sometimes it is hard to get schools to share what they're doing. And especially when people don't realise all the great stuff they're doing sometimes as well, that can easily be shareable and great stuff that someone else just hasn't thought about. So we've got a real mix across the 3 groups there of groups at different places in their PedTech journey, essentially, which is great.
So what we're starting to see more and more now is this role of the digital lead. I'm going to actually start with Cheryl with this kind of next question. But what do you see as a successful digital lead from that journey from perhaps a few, from many schools a few years ago? Some schools are still in that kind of cycle of a digital lead being somebody who sorts out Wi-Fi and admin and things like that, to becoming a pedagogy first approach.
Yeah, I think there's an element of both, isn't there? You need both things for it to be sort of successful. I think on our journey, so take myself as an example, obviously I'm now leading digital strategy across the trust, but I don't have a technical background. And I think in order to make this really successful, you need somebody that has a really good knowledge of teaching and learning. And so it can't be the person that's in charge of IT. And actually, although those people are so important and integral, like, it's a partnership between the sort of teaching and learning education team and the IT team. And I think that's where this role evolved so much. I think, like I said, I started really focused on education, and actually I probably evolved the other way, in the sense that, once you've got the infrastructure right and you can roll out a program like one-to-one, you then start to think about other ways that you can be innovative as well, in terms of, like, so at the moment we're really focused on data and insights, because again, ultimately that's a really key thing that we need. But actually, essentially, that's still going to improve teaching and learning if we get that bit right. So I think having that person in the right role that really understands pedagogy is super important when thinking about digital, and not just a person who's techie.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to kind of pass that on to Ernest as well, from your perspective. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, obviously, my role and Emine's role is not quite as big as Rachel's. We kind of lead the digital technology at the school rather than across the trust. So we do a lot of monitoring, a lot of supporting. Obviously we kind of look into research any new things that we can implement at the school. But we work alongside the digital strategy lead across the trust and kind of implement some of the strategies that we've given through that. Just make sure that's being used consistently and widely across the school. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, that's it. But yeah, we have to do a lot less of the just ensuring that, the Wi-Fi works bit. Our school's digital infrastructure is all fully set up. And that was kind of like the previous digital lead's role, where it was about making sure the connectivity works, making sure that the classroom hardware works. There's a centralized management system of devices and the security's all up. That was their kind of role, but with now being left, what's left behind is, you know, the tech that works and actually we can use effectively and make sure that it's being used, effectively to support the PedTech within the school. I don't know, Emine, if you want to kind of add to that, because, you know, we work together to ensure that's happening.
Yeah, I would say also, to add to Ernest's point, we do share a lot across the trust as well. So within our trust, we've got a diverse set of schools, so their infrastructure is very different to ours. Some are starting on their journey and not as advanced, so we obviously go into different schools and then show them tools like Nearpod and, you know, kind of champion those. So we do share across the trust.
Cool. Like, I always, whenever schools ask me, so all of our schools are mainly secondary schools and we've got a couple of primaries, and when people are asking about digital leaders, I always suggest primary school teachers, because primary school teachers are in such a unique position where they teach all subjects and then you're applying that same digital transformation to all your subjects that you do. So actually it makes great digital leaders because you're not just focusing in on the one thing.
I guess, sorry.
Oh. Yeah, go on then. Let's go on. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, actually, what I forgot to mention is, you know, obviously, you know, across the 3 years, I guess the other thing that we've been doing is just working on the PedTech project as well with, you know, Dr. Fiona Albury-Smith. So that was all about just looking at how, you know, first of all, what strategies are we using across the school to support the learning, and then, you know, what tools best kind of enhance and contribute to the successful of, you know, to the success of those strategies. Just thought I'd kind of drop that in as well.
Cool, brilliant. Rachel, Emine, you are in the thick of primary education at the moment, on the floor at the grindstone. Thinking of like digital leadership in primary, what is one thing that our secondary school colleagues that are listening to this might not realise about some of the unique challenges that being a digital leader in primary schools can throw up to you?
So I would say, I don't know if it's a challenge, but it's something they maybe don't consider, is how advanced our children are. And again, it's dependent on context, but, you know, I met with the digital lead at one of our partner secondary schools, and their curriculum starts from logging in on a Chromebook, and obviously our children are doing that in our children are doing that in year one. So I think just considering how advanced children are, not assuming, but, you know, they are quite advanced with their technology. So thinking about the units they're teaching, even with coding, we teach Python in year 6, I believe, and I think they start them off with that in year 7. So yeah, just thinking about that really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, we've been looking really closely at our computing curriculum recently, and some of the units that we've had this year for our year 4, their first 2 lessons are learning how to copy and paste a picture, which my children, that's probably one of the first things they wanted to do when they got their devices. So yeah, I completely agree with you there. And I would also kind of add on to that in a different way. The children are so advanced that I think what is kind of different from secondary is when we're working collaboratively, or I've given them a resource, they will find a way to make sure that they can enter some sort of chat or find some sort of way around it. And I think they find it like a little challenge, or how can I get out of this? Or how can I edit Miss Orwell's work, you know, and change one of the words? And so really it's kept me on my toes to think, well, how can I make sure that this is child-proof here? Because they are so good and fluent with their Chromebooks. So there's been a few times I've shared documents and then opened up, say, like the docs comments, and they're just like, what's everyone putting for number 3? And I think, oh my goodness, how did they even get into that? I didn't know that was there. So sometimes I do find that they're a bit more advanced than me in some cases. So yeah, I completely agree.
Cool.
I think just adding, sorry, Peter, just as well, parental perception of like what their devices are used for. I guess maybe in secondary you have less parental engagement as well. So just thinking about communicating that clearly with the parents as well.
Yeah, and I think
awareness.
like Ruth, I think you could probably chip in here, is I think especially as being part of a trust, every school is really different in terms of how parents see one-to-one devices and Chromebooks within your schools. So we've had really, really good reception from parents and not too many questions, and they're happy most of the time. Maybe one or two parents might have a question or two, and we'll do like an assembly where we share what we're going to be doing. And other trusts are putting, other schools are putting just as much kind of engagement and enthusiasm into that, same as us, but really are struggling to get that parental engagement.
Yeah, and I think it's been a bit of a learning curve as we've kind of implemented the tools that we're using, that we do have to be quite, you know, open with everything that we're doing with the children. So the parents are, you know what we're doing. They're not just hearing, oh, we're using this program that they've probably not heard of before. It might be a new software. And I've really had to kind of bring in the parental engagement and make sure they're clear on what we're using them for, what the purpose is. We're not just sticking them on a Chromebook all day, every day. It's part of the teaching and learning, and it's really well thought through, and just communicating that really clearly has been something that I've had to kind of learn on the journey as well.
And some of those misconceptions just come from, I say, what perhaps they're experiencing in secondary education as well. And I just want to pick up on that slip of obviously as well, because I think that is like a place where we should be getting to. Like, obviously they know like how to log in. Yeah, why are you questioning that? Why are we pretending year 7 children need to learn how to log in? Like, that should be
say that I had to train an adult how to copy and paste a picture today. So.
we know adults are a different beast, right? So we're going to move on to focus on we're going to do a little bit of a kind of a focus on Leo very, very briefly. But obviously, as an innovative school, innovative trust with your one-to-one program, and many of us obviously been inspired by what you have kind of started, trend-setted. For a school leader listening who is terrified of the logistics, what's the single biggest culture hack that helped your staff move from anxious to expert?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's probably the one we get asked the most as well, around kind of staff confidence. I think the biggest culture hack, I guess, is, so I did a training session with one of our brand new schools this week. It was the first training session, and they did not touch a device. So I think that is really important, to make sure that you give the theory around, and that's the same as what you were saying there, Ruth, around parents as well, because I think you give the theory about why you're doing it, and everything that we talk about at Leo is about school improvement, or, you know, an area of development that the school needs or the trust needs. So again, it's, you know, it's not just about handing out Chromebooks and saying, right, good luck, off you go. And it's really focused on the pedagogy that sits behind it.
And I'd say like a hack that's like Cheryl's put in place is that she's got cloud champions. So she's got people like me in all of the schools. And then we can be the trialers and the enthusiasts, and, you know, the followers as such, and we can try something out and then disseminate that good practice amongst our other colleagues. And I think that's just so strong. And to pick those sort of cloud champions carefully, because it's not necessarily the techie people. You know, just because we're using technology, you don't want to give it to the IT lead or something like that. You just want to give it to your good practitioners that have that good pedagogical knowledge and that good pedagogical intent behind their everyday practice. And if they can see how to utilize the technology in purposeful ways that are going to benefit you as a practitioner, but also our learners, that's what we really want to instill in our everyday practice.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, obviously you were a lot earlier on your journey, you know, and I think when we sort of started working with you and your schools around that, we very quickly found people like Ruth and Rachel that were in your cohort that could really see it straight away. And again, like, you know, it's about training up those people. And again, like, if you can get that in-house, and Ernest and Emine, I'm sure you're the same, like, if you find those people in your schools, train them really well. And again, they're the people that can go to the other teams and go, well, this is what I'm doing in my class, and this is what I, you know, and sharing that love almost around. But I think it's just building up people's confidence. And I think Jamie's doing a really good job of that at the moment with one of our schools. Somebody came up to him today and was like, you'll be really proud of me, I've done this. And again, it's just, you know, it's about, you know, giving people confidence. It's celebrating the small wins. So important.
It's empowering people, isn't it? It's giving the, like you said, giving them the confidence to just have a go. And it's okay that if it doesn't go 100% right, first of all, I think naturally as teachers, we want to have all of the power. We, as such, we want to be confident. We want to get it right first time for us and for the children. But when we're using something new, you know, we tell the children it's okay to take risks. It's okay to get it wrong. Well, we've got to be kind to ourselves sometimes and say, actually, it's okay that maybe it won't be perfect, and we'll take it as a learning experience as well. So yeah, empowering ourselves as well, and then also, you know, drip feeding it to other colleagues, and they can see, you know, by us going, oh, this worked really well, and the children also saying, oh, we did this, and then other classes will then get, you know, wind of that and want to try it out themselves. I think that's really powerful.
Amazing. Like, I couldn't agree more about it's okay to make mistakes. And, you know, one thing that I always do when I'm trying something new is let the kids know that I'm trying something new and it might go wrong. And that way they're prepared for it to go wrong when it inevitably does.
Do we just have to add for audio listeners that James just wiped away a tear at the end of
There's an annoying guy doing the rounds. It's like the darts, Ali Pally. Watergate.
Ernest and Emmy, let's come over to you. You guys have done significant work at your trust about streamlining systems. What's one digital tool that has definitely given time back to your primary teachers?
Do you want to start with this one?
I can do, yeah. Oh, this is a really hard question. There's so many. I think my favorite one at the moment is probably practice sets. Definitely within Classroom, the generate a quiz feature. Really love that. You know, you can create a quiz within like minutes, edit what you want, change the prompt. So that's been really useful because as a school, one of our priorities is to focus on retrieval practice. So that's really supported our teachers and us.
Cool. Ernest, anything that you can think of, that one tool, or that it could be something as simple as like Google Classroom or Google Forms, up to an entire program that's worked for you?
It probably would be Google Classroom. I'm just trying to think if anything's like tops that, but I just think it's such a great shared resource for our teachers, you know, to disseminate information. It's just become such a great tool for, you know, giving children feedback, and it's just, you know, saving on like paper resources, being more efficient with that. I think that in itself just, you know, helps so much. And, you know, part of PedTech is all about being more efficient in what you do and how you do it, and making things easier and more successful, you know, children not losing resources but actually just having them in one place. That I think it just makes that feature really successful and a really great tool.
I love what you said there about the physical resource and not getting them lost. Me and Fiona are actually the other day talking about looking into some research about just how much books weigh, and if you're carrying those around compared to one Chromebook. Like, it sounds so stupid, but I was interviewing some of my kids the other day with a person that came in for a visit, and I had to give them, because we've used Chromebooks for so long one-to-one, I had to really prompt them with the idea of, well, what if you did have to carry around 8 books? And they were like, oh, what's the point of that? And it was just something that never entered their minds. Yeah, so great couple of tools there.
So the next question's fitting. I get to ask Rachel and Ruth about the digital tools that bridge gaps. So being on a journey of schools kind of recently, starting and bringing in a range of different digital tools, to somebody who's, you know, starting to feel like they've got accustomed to it, starting to fly with some of them. What are your, I want to say, biggest wins? What's your advice for others?
I think the biggest thing to start with is to know that it's not, the aim isn't to be like the most amazing school overnight. I can use all these tools, I'm really proficient, look at me. It's more about how we're using the tools successfully. And I think we've we've been on a journey. We kind of started last year. Google Classroom was a bit of a free for all. Let's just try and do it, our way that works with our school. And it's definitely helped us kind of streamline our approach to have like a whole trust, set up with Google Classroom. It sounds so simple, but having it there and everyone's using the same format and, uploading work and documents in the same way, that you can then say, oh, this hasn't worked for me. Can you help me out? Because you're all doing the same kind of uploading and sharing of the work. So just making sure you're kind of doing the same thing. And then that helps with the support in that. So Google Classroom being a really key one, making sure it's set up properly for everyone to use in the same way.
Yeah, Ruth, I completely agree. And I also think you kind of like mentioned collaboration. And I think one thing we've done really, really quite well is it's very open. So anytime anyone's stuck, we have Google Chats where somebody can pop in their question if they're stuck or they're not sure of a certain shortcut or how a certain software works. And we meet every half term and look at what's gone well this half term, but also what's really not gone so well. And then there's always somebody there that can give a bit of advice and say, well, listen, I did it this way and it's worked 10 times better for me. Or, do you know what, I'm having the same problem. And there's a massive group of us now that are just offering support to all of the different schools. But yeah, I think consistency in our trust has been probably one of the most kind of invaluable tools. Consistency of our Google Classroom, the way we lay out and set our work on there. But even other softwares, for example, Nearpod, having a district library where I can take a look at what other schools are doing differently to me. And I think especially when you start new softwares, you can get a bit stuck in your ways with, okay, I'll do the slides like this and I'll put a quiz at the end. And then when you get to see actually someone else has made this fantastic document and I didn't think of doing it like that, it gives everybody else those new ideas as well.
Amazing. Some great tips coming through there. So let's move on to the quickfire section of our thing. So this next question is a little quickfire question for everyone. Would it even be a technology podcast without talking about AI? So for primary, this can sometimes be a bit of an elephant in the room. What is your hot take on AI for primary school students? Is it a tool for creativity or is it a risk to foundational skills? I'm going to flip and go with Rachel first, and we'll go the other way around this time. So, Rachel, you're in the hot seat. What do you think?
Okay. Well, I think if you properly speak to the children about what AI is, how it works, what information you can get from it, and how to effectively use it, I think it can be a really, really effective tool for bringing out the creativity. Just a quick example, my children kind of first dabbled in AI through Canva. So having a look at images and how they can put in great prompts and we used it for character description. And it was one of my favorite lessons. So in that sense, yeah, I think it can definitely enhance their creativity and enhance their learning.
Oh, Ruth, over to you. Tool for creativity or risk to foundational skills?
I would say, again, if managed properly, if spoken about and taught properly, explicitly taught to the children, what is AI, why do we use it, how do we use it properly, how do we use it safely, then it's definitely a tool for creativity. I used a gem recently with one of the characters we were writing a biography about. They could ask them questions. Obviously, the character is no longer alive, but they were able to answer some questions, and the children absolutely loved it. And what the outcome of their writing, the biographies that they wrote were fantastic. But, using that and making sure they know, obviously, this is not a real person. This is artificial intelligence. This is why we're using it. This is how it's helping us. Then it's a great tool. And it's really, I can really see the benefit with the outcome of their work and their understanding as well.
Amazing. James and Cheryl, over to you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everybody said. And I think it is an amplifier in many ways, but again, if it's used effectively. And I think, if we don't teach children those foundational skills, then they're going to do it anyway. Like that's always my, they're already doing it, they're already using it, and whether we're ignoring it or not, it's happening. So we have to make sure that we're really preparing them, and I think it is about teaching them that AI isn't their friend and that sort of stuff. And it's been Safer Internet Day recently, and that's been a huge focus on that this year. But there's so much potential that it can do to, again, continue to level that playing field that we know is so important. And one of the things that we've been trialing recently is Notebook LM with students. And again, being able to put lesson content that you've pre-approved is far more effective than just going, well, here's Google, off you go. So again, it's just thinking differently, shaping it in the right way, and ensuring that children have got that knowledge.
Yeah. I think with great power comes great responsibility as such. Get that quote in there. And I think, you just have to use it responsibly, really think about what we're doing. Because actually, talking about engagement is such an engaging way to, be a creator. We're no longer I'm not a great artist, I'm afraid, but with the use of AI and my words and specific word choices, I can become a good artist. And it's the children have that opportunity to sort of have a tangible response from something that they're writing, and then iterate that and think, actually, I want to change that image, and really be purposefully, thinking about their work, their writing, and really improve it with a purpose. And I think that's quite a powerful tool.
Amazing. Emine, over to you.
Totally agree with what you've all said. I think James used the word purpose. You have to have a purpose for what you're going to use it for. So again, example, saw a really great lesson the other day in a year 6 class. They had a Notebook LM. It was a history lesson. They'd pre-approved the sources and the children were able to ask questions about it. And the teacher had thought really carefully about what sources they've put in there. So if it's managed well, I don't think you can hide from it. It's, it's integrated within tools. I think that's what parents and children don't realise. Even in tools like learning by questions, it's integrated within there when it's giving you those prompts. So yeah, definitely one for creativity.
Ernest, last one. Are we going to mix it up, or are we all going to go for a talk of creativity?
Yeah, I don't want to put a spanner in the works, but I'm 50-50. I think what Cheryl said is just the cat is out of the box. It's there, it's out there, and children will always have access to it, regardless whether you kind of put it on the plate for them or not. It's there. And I completely agree. I think, it's a great way to engage children. And if used purposefully, I think it's such a great resource. I think my only worry is that, obviously we give the children the Chromebooks. We are responsible, for giving it to them during the lesson. And, it's sometimes, yes, we can use Notebook LM where the children can ask questions, but they're not the ones that are then looking at those sources. The AI is doing the interpreting. And I think it's so important that we don't lose sight of that, and the children still have those skills where they are interpreting, because even adults, and yes, because it's out there, we have to teach them to be more responsible, and hopefully they will be so much better than the adults that are just using it, not then checking through it, that they learn that actually it needs to be checked and verified before it's used for something else, and it's used with purpose. But yeah, I just do worry that, with it being out there, that we're going to lose sight of the skills that the children need to be taught, those foundational skills, especially at primary school level. So we've just got to make sure that we definitely make so much time for that.
I love mixing it up on the last one there. I would just in summary though, none of you at any point there said just stick them in front of Gemini, because again, when we have that screen time discussion, the parent, the outside of educator view is, just sticking them in front of a screen counts as screen time. And it's the same with AI. We're not just sticking kids in front of Gemini and going, go crazy. Everyone there mentioned Notebook LM or Canva, which are all these ring-fence protected systems where you can explore these things safely in a controlled, planned out environment. And I think, again, it's that perception thing of, we're not just letting kids run rampant on large language models doing whatever they want. It really is targeted, controlled. education, and Notebook LM was the game changer for me, just being able to control those sources.
So we're going to go with some closing advice now. So to the teachers listening who feels overwhelmed by the digital part of their job, and kind of we've alluded to it, is now part of everyone's job, whether they realize it or not. Some of them still don't, do they? What is the one small win that they should aim for tomorrow morning? I'm going to mix things up. Let's go with Leo first.
I think I would say probably just be selfish and dedicate time to focus on one thing you find difficult or one thing that's a challenge to you. And that's hard when you're working in such a busy environment, but find that thing that drives you nuts and find a solution for it.
Yeah. Focus on one thing, do it well, learn it, and then spread it.
Perfect. Ruth and Rachel.
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't try and sit there struggling and, you know, trying 5 different ways to get the outcome you want. Go and ask someone who can help you, talk you through it. You know, pride is not a thing. Go and ask.
See, I kind of thought of this in a different way. So if I put myself into that person's shoes and thought, well, look, if everything went a bit rubbish today and I didn't really get what I wanted out of that lesson, I think tomorrow I'd give myself a small win by probably teaching the children one really small but really simple thing. So a new strategy for the classroom, maybe a new keyboard shortcut that they can give a go in the morning, and they will be fascinated, but also you'll get that boost of, oh yes, that's what I've taught them one successful thing today. And even though that lesson yesterday went terribly and the system went down or whatever it was, we've done something new today. So even if it's a new recall, like we say Pac-Man for them to put their Chromebooks on. I actually stole that from Cheryl. Thanks, Cheryl. But teaching them something new that would just give you a bit of a boost that you're heading in the right direction with these devices.
And then finally, Ernest, Emine.
Ernest.
Okay. I mean, this might be rubbish advice, but just embrace it. Persist, because I can't imagine a world without using technology in the classroom and using just like things like AI to just make things, just make my time, just make things quicker, easier, within the classroom, out of the classroom. So do just persist, embrace it, because it is, once you know it and you can use it effectively, it just makes your life so much easier and better.
Matt, what would your bit of advice be?
Oh, are you putting me on the spot now?
I am, yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot.
I think it's just, give it a go, really. I think that's what you can kind of do. Like, have a go at it. Like, I think there's so much evidence out there that tells you, like, it will make your life better. Like, so, like, take on that advice, and eventually I think you'll see those wins come in.
I'm going to throw my 10 cents in. Is there are no stupid questions. Like, you don't have to start with Gemini. You don't have to start with practice sets. There are, from putting my training hat on, there are no stupid questions. If you're thinking it, 5 other people are as well. If you have a problem with something, other people will. Don't be afraid to ask what you think is a stupid question, because you don't know what you don't know. Much like the kids, and going back to Cheryl's advice earlier and James's, like, we give the kids that chance to explore. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're doing great. Just trying is the best. So that brings us to the end of this edition. I would like to thank Ernest, Emine, James, Cheryl, Ruth, Rachel, myself, and Matt for this episode. Thanks for joining us, guys. We've had some real great primary specific focuses there, really drawing on some of the tools, views on AI, and those really simple wins that you can get for those primary classes that you might not be thinking of. For those secondary school teachers watching as well, bear those little bit hints in mind. Like, those kids are going to be coming through systems into your schools. The schools we've got here are representative from schools from all over the country. So just bear in mind that, you know, the real message, those kids are getting taught those digital skills in a lot of places, and don't expect kids to not be ready with those tools when they come into your systems. Thanks. Join us for the next episode. Matt, what's the next episode going to be?
We are doing this again, but with secondary educators.
It's like it's the perfect lead on, isn't it? So join us for the secondary edition next time on the Gig England Spotlight podcast.